Okay, good morning everyone again. Welcome back. So I hope we have already learned about all the different ways to construct the post request. There are multiple ways, but all these have their own use cases. You have to pick which one based upon the current situation or in your project. Okay, so now we'll also see one more way that is using Pojos. Maybe for that I'll create a new class. Let's create a new class, post request using Pojo. Okay, and here
Maven,
let me create.
hi
hel-
Maven. One question I forgot to ask.
okay.
When we created this JSON,
Uh-huh.
using the hash map, we have the option to maintain the order using the linked hash map,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But when we are using that org.json, do we have anything? Because while
Mhm.
working with the org.json, we don't have the order is not maintained again. So do we have anything, any classes over there? We have
No, you
two
can
classes, right?
convert it. You can convert that into a map or a tree map so that it becomes alphabetical order. Or if you want to maintain the insertion order, um, I don't know. We need to check that particular library. That's an external library, right? You can go to their documentation and then see if there is a way, or you can go to their methods and then explore. Okay, so basically this is their methods, right? So they only have this class, they don't have a different version of it, I'm sure about it. So even for the JSON object they'll have just JSON object. Maybe if they want to maintain the insertion order, but in JSON it doesn't matter, right? So um get, you have key sets, increment, you need to explore these methods, okay, what this has, and then let me know. If you still cannot find it, I'll let you know. But in case of JSON it doesn't matter, you can have them in different order. It should work, and the server or your client can able to parse the information and use it. Okay, so the order doesn't matter, it's about the hierarchy, just about the hierarchy. Okay, so it doesn't matter much. Got it?
So while validating the JSON schema always,
Yeah, scheme
so
also it doesn't
the
matter.
order is not
The order is the order doesn't matter. Okay, only the hierarchies matter. Suppose let's say you have a JSON like this. Okay, the same JSON will work. Okay, if we keep like this. Okay, so there is no different. But the same JSON will not work if the ID is put inside this particular uh, JSON object. Okay, so the hierarchies matter. So we have a root node. Inside the root node, we have a favorite foods JSON object. Inside that, we have ID. So now this makes the changes in the schema, but interplacing this ID and first name within the root node doesn't gonna change your schema. Okay, it still remains the same. Okay, the order doesn't matter, guys. So you don't have to worry about it. Only the hierarchy matters. Okay, good. So let's come to the Pojo. Okay, so Pojo is again the last way. We have already seen about almost all the ways that are possible. Okay, the Pojo means plain old Java object. Okay, it's just a way to represent your object. Okay, suppose if there is an employee, he has an ID, he has some properties like this: first name, ID, last name, and email. There is a brilliant way to, we have a, used JSON to denote that. But in case of Java we have Pojo. Okay, to actually have that information of the employee object. Okay, how are we going to do that? First, let's try to create an Pojo that has only these four fields. This is very simple. After that, we will see about the remaining. Okay, so let's go here, and then uh, for the class. Okay, the first thing that you need to understand is, in case of Pojo, for every curly braces, you need to create a class. Okay, okay. So that's the first rule. For every curly braces or JSON object, you need to create a class file. Okay, that's the only way. And for every square brackets or JSON array, you need to create a list of that particular type. Okay, whatever it's storing in that particular class file. Okay, let's do it, and then we will understand. Okay, good. Now we have, let's assume this is an employee. Okay, or a student. Okay, better we will put it as an employee. So let's go to the main class, and let's go here and create a class inside the package called as com.pojo.employee. Okay, so this is an employee class. Okay, they have 4 fields, right? So first one is basically a private int id, and they also have private string name. Okay, uh, sorry, the last name, this is actually first name, right? So first name, and then they also have email. Guys, everyone knows, right, why we are using private and then using getters and setters instead of just directly using public.
This is encapsulation, right?
Okay, yeah, this is encapsulation, but why we are doing that?
Our, to protect our implementation, just to it will enable us to give only the whatever data the calling class or referring class.
We don't want to expose our variables to the outside class.
Okay, still we are using getter method, right? Using getter method, we are still accessing them, right? Suppose if there is
There are
a
five rules for the plain old Java class. So we have to keep the variables as private, and we have to set up the properties and setters and getters, and we have to keep the class as public. And there were some 2 other rules as well.
Why
So
there is a rule, right? There is no rules. Like basically, let's have a little fun. Okay, let's assume. Okay, I have some runner classes to explain you guys. Guys, basically people think, okay, encapsulation is all about having a private variable and then using getters and setters to access them. But it's more than that, right? Forget about all the concepts, okay, or high level knowledge. Okay, now we're gonna dig deep and learn about it. Okay, let's assume I have a public field called id, and then I also have a public field. All these are public. Okay, let's assume all these are public first. Okay, because I need to touch base on certain Java topics so that you guys can understand what encapsulation is really all about. Okay, now I have an employee class, right? So now I want to access that employee class. So if I want to create an employee object, so what I can do is basically I can create an constructor, all arguments constructor maybe. Okay, now I have a constructor to create an object. So what I can do is new employee, and I need to pass in all the id, let's say 15, 14, and then some first name, some last name, and then some email. Okay, something. Okay, I need to pass that. So create an object. Okay, let's come to the next question later. That question is when we have to use setter and when we have to use constructor. That is a different case. I'll come to that later. But yeah, first let's focus on this particular question. Suppose I have created an employee object. Now I want to print employee dot id. Okay, so I can access those variables, right? The non-static variables. Suppose I want to print first name, I can also access that using like this. Okay, so okay, and if I want to change any of them, okay, then what I can do is employee dot first name equal to, I can set my value. So let's say I am overriding the existing value and passing another. And at the end of the day, I'm again printing the employee dot first name. Okay, so I can do like this. Okay, let's try to run it and see what's happening. Okay, now if you notice, I employee.id is 14. I can see the first name is now SGF. I'm just overriding it with Amudan, and then I'm printing it. Okay, now when we have the simple option of directly accessing a variable using public, okay, if you give your variable as a public access modifier, then you can directly access it, right? Then why people are complicating by creating a private and then using a setter and getter method to access that? Let's see an example. Let's say my intention was never to store a null to one first name. Okay, but due to some reasons, my program, there is a lot of logic behind arriving at this first name, and at the end of that, it has become null. Okay, now if I run it, okay, see, it is printing me null. So I don't want this to happen at any cost. I don't want a first name to go to null. Okay, maybe if the first name is null, what I have to do, I have to give on some random values, or I want to give some default name like employee name not defined, something like that. Okay, in those cases I cannot have the control if I just use a variable, right? If you use a variable, anyone can assign null to it. Okay, but let's change the behavior now. Let's make this as private, and the only way that you can access them is now using a getter and setter. So let's click on getter and setter and using the first name. Okay, I have created a getter and setter. Okay, for this maybe I'll bring them down so that it's more readable. Okay, so now for the first name I have a getters and setters. So what I have to do, if I have to access this anywhere, so get first name. If I want to set some value to it, then employee dot set first name and then pass your first name. Let's say I'm passing it null. Okay, this time also if I try to get the first name, it will still print null. But this time, since I am using a getter method, I can go here. Okay, or whenever people are trying to set some value that is I don't want them to assign some null value to the first name, then in the case I can write some code here. Okay, if first name, okay, is not equal to null, then you do all this operation. Okay, then assign this. Okay, else, okay, if it is null, then I want you to assign this dot first name equal to some default value, or employee name not defined, something like this. Okay, you can give some random names or some default name, okay, for your example. So in this case, if someone is trying to assign a null, okay, it won't assign. Okay, it will assign a default value, so that you can write some complication logic if you use a method. Okay, that is not possible when you access them directly using a variable. That's the reason why we always you know uh, keep a variable as a private and then expose the getters and setters. Okay, that's the only reason, guys. Forget about all the encapsulation. There is no rules, nothing. If you use a method, you get a liberty to control stuff. Okay, if someday someone is telling, if someone is passing an id of 0, I don't want to set that. Okay, in those cases, okay, I will keep it as a private. Okay, now I will insert a getter and setter for this id. Okay, if someone is trying to assign a 0, then what I can do, if id is not equal to 0, then I want to assign that. Okay, else uh, I don't want to do that. I want to assign uh, this dot id equal to -1. Whatever the logic I want to write, I can write. Okay, so that's the beauty about using methods instead of variables. Okay, so that's just the power of methods, right? They're not related to any oops level concepts and stuff. Okay, good. Now let's try to run it and then see what's happening. Okay, now the first name shouldn't be null. See, if you notice, the first name is not null anymore. Okay, it's having a default name. This is called as encapsulation, because we have the power and control over a variable and what data can be assigned and what data can be fetched. Okay, I have only shown you guys just about when someone is passing me set or something, but while getting also, if you think some value is, if the value is 5, if the id is 5, I don't want to return 5. Okay, if the id is 5, I don't want to return 5, then I will return something else. Okay, you can control in the getter method and setter method, and that's the beauty about using private variables. And any doubts so far before we close this? Okay, any doubts? I hope everyone now understand why we have a private variables and then public getters and setters. Guys, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so next time when someone is asking you what is encapsulation, okay, don't just tell private variables and then public getters and setters. It's more about that, more than that. Right now, you know what? See, people don't teach this because they don't even understand that, right? So when you try to understand everything in a simplest way, okay, if someone is telling rule, there is no rule. Okay, it's all about understanding it properly. Okay, there is no rules in Java. Okay, everything has a purpose behind it. Please try to dig deep so that you can keep everything in mind. You don't have to, if it is a rule, right? Someone told a rule, he forgot after the 3 rule, but I never forget. Even if you ask me after a good sleep, I'll tell why we are using private variables and public getters and setters. Okay, I'm not blaming you guys, I'm just blaming the industry itself. Okay, they don't teach the right things. That's where the problem is. Okay, let's not speak about that. Let's go to the next topic. Okay, again, another interesting topic which going to check about your okay, let me create a public getters and setters. Now we all know how to create it. So Control A and then set. Okay, now I have created it. Now when we have to use a setter method and when we have to use a constructor, anyone knows about it? When we have to use this, when we have any ideas when we have to use let me remove all the setter methods.
Constructor is basically to initialize an object.
Correct.
Like when you create a new object.
Okay, that's one reason. Good. What else?
I'll use constructor when I have to force the parameters. Let's say if I'm like writing my Chrome driver and I have to force to use these parameters. So in
Okay.
that case, I'll use constructor.
Okay, that's good. What is it? What else?
Basically, constructors are used to set the values of class level variables.
Yes, correct. But when we I all these things are correct. Okay, but I am not getting what I was expecting. Okay, let's say here we have used a constructor, right? One important thing that we have to understand about constructor is, right, so constructors creates you an immutable objects. Okay, what is immutability? Anyone knows what is an immutability?
Just like strings are immutable, means that cannot be overridden.
Yes. Now this employee class doesn't have a setter method. Okay, it has only constructor. It has only constructor, and then it has only getter method. Okay, there is no way someone can set a value apart from passing that during the creation time, right? So that's the beauty about using constructors. So constructors helps you to create immutable objects. That's a very important thing. What is immutable objects? Unchangeable. Okay, they are not changeable. Unchangeable. Okay, suppose you are creating an employee database. You don't want people to come and keep changing the values using the setter method. If we expose setter methods, people use employee dot set first name, they change the names. Okay, they do that, they do all the time. So you don't want that to happen. You want to create an immutable object, and that's when you use a constructor instead of using a setter method. Okay, so that's another way. And now let's also create a, suppose if I also have a setter methods. Okay, alt and insert, create setters. Okay, now if I have a setter methods, now I have the freedom, and then employee dot set first name. So I'm changing the values, existing values. So this is called as mutability. Okay, so whenever you're coding, okay, immutability should be preferred. Okay, again, you may understand it later point of time, but for now, if you can just understand, constructor can help us to create immutable objects, and most importantly, it will force you to pass certain things. Okay, if there are sometimes if the email is optional, then you have to create one more constructor, and then you have to do it. Okay, so that's a separate topic. So let's not do it. First, let's worry about only this. So what I have done is I have created an employee class. It has only four variables. I have created getters and setters using Eclipse IDE. I also have this particular constructor as well. Now I want to construct the request, right? We have deviated from the topic, but yeah, we'll try to construct the request. First, if I want to use rest assured, I have to do the static imports, import static io.rest assured, and then start. Okay, now given and then what I want to do, I want to add a header. Header is basically a content type, and the value is content.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
When we have, you said constructors are used to create the immutable objects. Suppose you have the constructor as well, parameters constructor, and also you have the setter methods.
Yeah.
So in this case, when we try to use the setters method, it will mutate the already created
objects.
object.
Yes, that's why when your intention is to create an immutable object, don't expose the setter methods. Don't create a setter methods. Okay, or you can use something like a builder pattern so that you can solve that problem. Okay, I'll let you know guys how to do that. But yeah, for now just understand using constructor you can create immutable objects. With just setter methods you make your objects mutable. That's not a good approach. Okay, for now that is enough. We will learn about builder design pattern where I will explain you guys what is the problem with this approach, how we can use builder pattern, what is Lombok, how we can optimize the code and other stuff. We are still not there, but first let's understand and do this original problem. That's constructing this request and sending to JSON server. Okay, that's our whole intention for now. Okay, got it?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
okay. So I have constructed this particular thing. Let's say what else we have. So I'm just copying this so that I don't have to rewrite them. Okay, post request. So just in the body I need to pass the Pojo. Okay, so for the Pojo I need to construct so new employee. So we have an employee. I'm using constructor for now, so I need to pass the ID. So let's say ID is 45, and then we have first name, then we have last name, and then we have email. Okay, so we have all these things, and let's expose. We have created a employee object. Now I pass this here. That's it, guys. Okay, now this employee object is having all the information, okay, about the ID, the first name, last name, and email. So let's try to send it and see what's happening. Okay, so if you notice very closely, we have constructed ID, first name, last name, email. Everything is good, but my intention is not a very simple JSON like that. It is very complicated JSON. Like it has an array, and then it has another JSON object within the root node. Okay, so how we have to create this? Okay, first let's do this. Favorite foods. Okay, we have a JSON object inside another JSON object. So we need to create one more class. Like I told, for every curly braces you need to create a new class. Okay, let's go here and then create a new class. Let's name it as favorite food, and here in this new class, let me, yeah, so in this class again we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner is again an array list, but for now we'll only focus on breakfast and lunch. Okay, private string breakfast, and then we also have private string lunch. Okay, now I'm exposing getters and setters. Yeah, done. Or you can also expose your constructor. Okay, good. So now we have created a favorite food, but this favorite food, this whole stuff is again inside this, right? So I also need this employee class is also having one more parameter, that is private. This time this is favorite food type. Okay, favorite food, favorite food. Okay, if it is a string reference, the first name is of type string, then we are putting string here. ID is of integer, right? The same way this favorite food variable is of favorite food type. Okay, this is the class that we have created by us. Okay, now if someone wants to do a setting and getting of this particular thing, then you need to expose the getters and setters. Okay, go to getters and setters, create for the favorite food. Okay, if you want to set some values to it, you have to set it like this. Okay, now let's go to the post request using Pojo. I am creating one more thing. So new favorite food. I am creating object for favorite food, and in this I am passing something. Okay, and then breakfast is this, and then the lunch is rice. Okay, something like this, and then I create a new variable, And this favorite food is now part of this employee class, right? So again, I can use setter methods, okay, because otherwise I have to create one more constructor. Let's go, because whatever the constructor we have, it's having only 4 fields. Okay, either I need to add this here manually, or this is favorite food. If someone is passing me favorite food, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to store it in this dot favorite food equal to the favorite food. Okay, now let's go to the post request and then add this. Okay, let's basically move this down. Okay, now here we have already created a favorite food object, so let's pass it here. Okay, that's it, very simple. Now let's try to run it and then see whether it's getting constructed correctly or not. See, constructor employee in class cannot be applied to given types. Required is form of wood, but actual. Okay, this is basically causing problems that we have already created. Let's comment this out. Okay, it's not of our attention now. Good. Now let's try to run it. That's just a demo thing that I showed, but that is causing issues. Let's comment it out. Now, if you notice, we have created a body. Again, guys, don't worry about duplicate ID. We are not worried about the response for now. All we are interested is we constructed an ID, first name, last name, email, and inside, inside the root node itself, we created one more stuff that is favorite food JSON object that has breakfast as chapati and lunch as rice. Okay. Now the next task is to add dinner as an array list. Okay, this is an array of strings, right? It's a list of strings that are having dinner. Okay, let's go to the favorite food, because dinner is part of the favorite food class. Okay, let's go to the favorite food and private string and dinner. No, this is not a string type. Okay, this is list of string. I'm going to store a list of string. Okay, and let's import this. Okay, you have a list of string, and you also can expose your getters and setters. Okay, generating getters and setters is very important in order to serialize them. Okay, again, guys, here Jackson is doing the serialization for us. Okay, Jackson is again doing the serialization. Okay, it converts a Java object to JSON. Okay, you don't have to entirely worry about it, but if you create all the getters and setters, okay, it will do the serialization for you. Okay. Okay, now we have dinner also. Okay, so if someone is asked to pass this, okay, either they have to use constructor to do this, or basically they can use setter methods. Okay, let's go to here, and then here we have used favorite food, and here I'll pass. If someone is passing me a list of string, okay, list of string of dinner, then I will do is this dot dinner equal to dinner. Again, guys, you can also use setter methods. That's absolutely fine. Okay, let's go to here and then pass the list of string. Okay, you all know how to form a list of string, right? The first way is list of a new string dinner equal to new array list. Okay, I'm using array list implementation. You can also use anything you want. Okay, let's just import this. Okay, and then dinner dot add. First, I want to add Santosa, and then dinner dot add say something. Okay, so now you have created a list of objects. Okay, then you can pass that as well. Okay, dinner, all done. So now this is constructed, breakfast is ready, lunch is ready, dinner is a list of strings, so we have used like this. Again, instead of creating it like this, you can also use arrays dot as list and then pass dosa comma. You can also use like this. Okay, so it's up to you whether you want to do in 2 steps or 1 step. You can do like this. Okay, and now we have constructed the favorite food, and then we have constructed employee. Okay, and let's try to run it. Okay, Now if you notice, we have dinner as a list of array inside the favorite food JSON object. Okay, that's what we want, right? And next, there is only one pending, that is we need to add jobs as a list of strings inside the root node. Okay, if it is inside the root node, then I have to go to the employee class. Okay, and then I have to add a private list of string. Okay, because if it is storing numbers, you can give integers. Okay, but in my case it is storing string, so let's me also import it. Yeah, and then this is basically jobs. Okay, once you do this, you can also create getters and setters, and you can also make changes to the existing constructor, or you can create your own constructor. So let me create a own constructor using all the fields. Okay, and now let's go there, and after the email, now I can also pass list of strings, right? So I can use arrays dot as list, can use jobs as tester. Okay, we can use like this. Okay, so this is all about constructing this, and now let's try to send it. Okay, now if you notice, this is the request body that we have constructed: ID, first name, last name, email, and then favorite food, and then jobs. Okay, it doesn't matter whether you give the jobs here or you there, but if you notice, the jobs is having list of strings. Okay, that is tester trainer. Okay, good. The same way dinner is having list of things. Okay, now we have constructed the body that we want to construct here without much problems. Okay, any doubts so far, guys? Any doubts? Is any doubts so far? Yes or no? Understood? Not understood? Do you want me to explain again?
Amutan, so what is the better approach, like using array dot as list or using like proper?
Both are same. Okay, the arrays dot as list is having a small stuff in that. What is that? I don't know whether you guys know about it, but yeah, let's try to give an example. Let's go to the runner class and then try to explain it. I don't know whether you notice these things very closely, but arrays dot as list, if I create a list like tester trainer, okay, I create and introduce something like this. Suppose if I try to add a new one, okay, it won't allow, because whatever the list that is getting generated out of as list is basically fixed length. Okay, which means you can it is just fixed length. The sizes will be always 2. Okay, maybe you can change the values inside that, but let's try to do it. I'm trying to change it. Let's see what's the error it's showing. So it's telling it's an abstract list. Why you are trying to add something? It's an unsupported operation here. The size will always remain 2. Okay, even if you try to remove something out of it, it won't do. It won't allow. Okay, even though you get an option, but at runtime it won't allow, because that's an abstract list or a fixed length list. Okay, let's try to, but you can always have the option. Let's say a string dot get or basically set in the 0th index. I want to set something like this. Okay, then you get an option. Suppose I do a sys out of the strings after the change, then you might see the difference. So you're allowed to change the values, but you are not allowed to increase or decrease the length. Okay, it will basically creates you one fixed length list. That's a very short thing that you need to understand, but it's not the case with if you use a new a list of string list, you call new array list. Okay, if that is the case, then you can add, okay, you can add new stuff. Okay, you can remove new things. Okay, everything is possible. Okay, you can remove 0th index. Anything is possible with this particular list. This won't create you a fixed length list. Okay, that's the difference between these two. Got it?
Yes, Amutan. Thanks.
Okay, guys. It's all about your intention, but my intention was, once I set this values, okay, Once I set the values as tester and trainer, I won't change them. So that's the reason I used arrays.asList. If in case you are going to change it, then I can go the conventional way of creating an array list and then add them one by one and then put it here. Okay, it's up to you. Or you can also use streams and then convert back to arrays. That's another separate topic. We don't want to get that. But I just want to know whether you guys understood how to construct a request using the pojos. That's very important. Okay, so for every class you have, for every curly brace you need to create a class. For every square brackets you need to create list of the type. Okay, in our case the job and dinner both are this. Maybe if you have something like a marks, okay, that's of number type, then you can use list of integers, okay, or double or whatever. Okay, so any doubts guys, please give an yes or no so that I can proceed. It's very important topic.
Amrut, what's the advantage of using Pojo? Basically, like why do we prefer Pojo over other
Yeah,
other modes? No?
so the easiest and quick advantage that we get is Pojos can be used for both serialization as well as deserialization, and whatever may be the complex payload. If even if your developers, okay, they will be using Pojos, okay, to construct the request, because that's the easiest and the effective way, because you don't have to do a lot of work. Okay, though you think, okay, there are ways like let's say you are typing a lot of getters and setters here, all those things. Though even though I have used the IntelliJ for this, there is still some plugins like Lombok that can help to solve this purpose. We want to see about that just now. But for now, just understand, developers are also using Pojos. Okay, you can encapsulate all the information. Suppose you want to change it, you want to control mutability and immutability, all those advantages that you get only with the Pojos. Okay, and if someone is not very confident creating their own Pojos, all they have to do is copy the request for which they want to generate a Pojo. Go to the website, online Pojo Generator. For everything we have online tools now. Okay, just copy and paste it. Now you choose which package you want to create. Okay, com.pojo. See, even in our case we created something like com.pojo. Okay, com.pojo, and then the employee class. So class name is employee. Okay, what is the schema that you have given? We have given a JSON schema. Okay, what is the annotation? Say, okay, I want Jackson, I want to use Jackson annotations, and then you want a builder methods. No, I won't want builder pattern now. Include getters and setters. I want the getters and setters because I want immutable objects. If you want constructor, you can also include constructors. Okay, and then that's it. Okay, and then you can click on preview. That will basically preview the whole stuff for you. Okay, I'll come to the annotations they have used here, but basically just understand, it will basically help you to create all the first name, last name, integer, getter method, setter method, everything for you. Okay, you don't have to worry about everything. Okay, this is the first class, and the second class is favorite foods. Okay, for the favorite foods we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay, and then you have this, all these things, getters and setters. Okay, you can just copy this to the clipboard and then you can create the class, copy paste into your IDs. Okay, that's as simple as that. Okay, you can use like this, but there is still an effective way. Okay, to before going there, I want to stop here and ask guys any doubts.
So, Amudan, so consider there is a you said like for every JSON object we need to create a class, right? So
Yeah.
consider consider there is a job. Currently, it is in JSON array. Consider
Okay.
it is a JSON object.
Okay.
So in that case, do we need to create a separate class for the jobs?
Yes, not for the jobs, but for the values. Let's do that. Okay, let's do this. Okay, let's assume this, let's not take on the jobs here. Let's say something like marks. Let's have, you have a marks. Okay, and this is of this is an, you want that to be in list of objects, right? So let's do it. So first, let's say it has a list. Let's say for Tamil, so let's say for Max, Okay, so you have this, and inside that I have let's say 90, something like this. Okay, why this is throwing error? Okay, just a minute, guys. I have a marks that's going to be of like this. For Tamil subject, I got 90 marks. Okay, and for English, I got 85. Whatever. So this is one. This is, let's say, this is my. I want to create a list of it. Okay. And then I want to add this as a. Okay, I want to construct something like this. Okay, guys, understood? So I have marks. Maybe you can consider this marks as first sem marks, this marks as second sem marks, or whatever. Okay, in those cases, okay, I need to construct something like this. Okay, let's do it. Okay, you have marks that has object. Okay, so for that you need to create a class. Okay, let's go and create a class. Create a class called as marks, and this marks is having only two for now, a private int Tamil, and then okay, and then you generate all your whatever stuff you want. Basically, I want all the constructors, and then add an insert. I also want the getters and setters. Okay, so this is done. Now this marks is basically part of your employee class, right? So let's go to the employee, and this employee is now going to store a list of marks type. Okay, previously it stored list of strings. This time it's going to store list of marks types. Okay, now we'll again create a constructor, add constructor parameter. Okay, choose constructor. So I'll choose the second one, or basically I can create a whole new constructor again. I can create a constructor using all this. Okay, so this time you need to construct marks. Okay, marks class. Okay, that's it, guys. So let's go. Also, let's create and getters and setters for the new field. That's it. Now let's go to this, and here we have an employee object, and that particular employee object, we also want to pass list of marks. First, let's create marks. So marks one equal to new marks, and then pass your marks. So let's say 85, 90. This is the like quarterly marks, and I have also new marks. If let's say 95, 68, whatever, and then I create a new variable. This is marks. Okay, and then I have two marks now. I want to store this in an object. So what I can do, arrays dot as list. Okay, I'm storing marks, comma marks one. That's it, guys. Once you store this, now you can introduce a new variable, list of marks. This list of marks is now part of this. Okay, just pass it here. That's it. Oh, it is still showing. Okay, spelling mistake. It's okay. That's fine. So now we have passed like this. Let's see what's happening. Okay, now very closely watch it. So for the marks, we want that to be an array, right? Yes, and then it has list of objects. Okay, so like this also you can construct. Okay, it's all about understanding the concept. Okay, so the concept is the marks is a JSON object. So what I have done, I have created a new class. It has two fields, Tamil and English, and both of integer type. So private in Tamil, private in English, and then I created a constructor. You can also use getters and setters, whatever, to set the values. Okay, now I need to create a list of marks, right? So in this case, what I done, I have one here. First, I created one marks. Second, I created one marks. Now I have both these things. Okay, I have both of these ready, but I want to store them in a list. Okay, I want to store them in a list. That's why I create list of marks equal to arrays dot as list marks one, marks one. Okay, now you have list of marks. You can pass it on to the to the employee class. Okay, this is an employee class that has a list of, previously it has list of strings, but this time it is having list of marks. Okay, that's about it, guys. Okay, any doubts? Guys, if you think I'm rushing through, you can always ping me separately. I will explain you one-to-one. That is not a big deal for me, but let me know if you don't understand. That's very important. Okay, got it? Any doubts? Who asked the doubt? Kavi, you only asked the doubt, right?
Yes, Amuthan.
Guys, can you basically hear me?
Yes, Amuthan.
Yeah, any doubts
Yeah.
in this? How to construct the Pojo? Guys, yes or no? Very easy.
No doubts. Thanks, Amuthan.
No, Amuthan.
No more.
No doubts, right? Or you don't understand? Sorry.
Like when you teach, everything looks fine, but like when you practice, then only doubts come.
Yeah, that's why I want you guys to practice. Then only you will understand the real stuff. Okay. Anyway, you have online generators like this for rescue, but it's very important to understand all these things. Okay. Good. Anyway, I will give you guys some time. Okay, maybe try today, and if you have any doubts, you can let me know tomorrow. Okay. Now, if you notice, we are writing a lot of codes here. Okay, we are writing a lot of codes, but basically I don't want to do that. Then how can I solve that purpose? Okay, in those cases, there is something called as Lombok. Okay, if you are someone using IntelliJ, it comes inbuilt, so you don't have to do anything. Okay, let's go here, and then there will be something called as Lombok, and I don't know where it is. It will be already there. So let's go to the pom.xml, and then there is some plugin called as Lombok. Lombok Maven Dependency. Let's add it. Okay, copy this. Okay, you don't have to provide the scope, and then paste it here. And then I don't need the scope for now. Okay, just import all these libraries. Okay, it will download some jar files. Using that, you can reduce the boilerplate codes. Okay, we want to understand how.
Amuthan, if this is a plugin, it'll come in the plugin tag.
No,
Or
it
we have
won't
to
come.
keep it normal.
No, it won't come in the plugin. You need to add it as a dependency.
Okay.
Okay, let's try to import it. Yeah, now everything is imported. Okay, good. Now let's go and then try to understand how this works. Okay, let's create a new class. Okay, new class called a student. In the student, I have something called as a private string first name. Okay, let's not deal about a lot of things. Okay, now normally we need to create a getters and setters for this. For that, you can simply tell @getter. Okay, that's it, @setter. That's it, guys. Now Lombok, this is coming from Lombok. Okay, Lombok has generated the getter method and setter method for you. Okay, how can I believe you, Amber? Okay, let's go to the learner class again. Let's remove all these things. Let's try to create a new student stuff. Okay, we created a new student. Okay, that's all good. We created a setter methods and getter methods, right? So student dot. If you notice, get first name, set first name. Okay, there are two methods that I could see here, but that is not actually present here because it generated it for you. Okay, it has generated it for you. In order to understand or see that code, you can also have the way, but for now you can use get first name to basically, okay, you can print it. Okay, so you can do all these things. Okay, but let's try to de-Lombok this, and then so let's go to the student object, go to refactor. There is something called as de-Lombok, which means this understanding you have used to getters and setter what you want to de-Lombok. Okay, which means it will convert it back to the original code. Okay, let's click on add setter, which means now it has removed the setter and then it has created a setter method for you. Let's go here and then getter. So now it removed the getter also, and then it's less. So it basically converted that annotation to back to the methods. If you want to Lombok, you convert this method back to those annotations. Okay. Okay, now you can apply them at field levels, but imagine you have a lot of fields like this. Okay, in those cases, it's very hard for me to go on top of annotate on top of each and everything. So what I can do, basically I can annotate a getter on top of it, and then also setter on top of it. Now this will create getters and setters, okay, for all both of these, okay, both of first name and last name. Okay, that's a beauty about using Lombok. Okay, now I also want constructor Amudan, because last time we have created a constructor. Okay, at the rate all args constructor, which means it will create a constructor using all the arguments. We have two arguments, one is first name and last name. So it will create a constructor using these two things. Okay, if you want to de-Lombok and see the actual code, go here, click on at the rate constructors. So if you notice, it has basically created constructors for you with these things. Okay, I don't want to do this. Let's get back to the original stuff. Okay, now we also have like this. It's causing error because I'm not passing this, but yeah, we are not interested in this now. Okay, so now if we create a new student, okay, it is telling please pass the first name and last name. That's because Lombok has created a constructor for you that is not visible to your eyes. If you want to see it, you can go and de-Lombok it and see it. But now it is clearly telling you pass me two objects. One is first name and the other one is last name. Okay, and then you can introduce a new variable. Okay, now we can do like this. Okay, that's the beauty about using Lombok. In case of Eclipse, if you are using Eclipse, okay, then apart from adding the pom.xml, apart from adding the dependency in the pom.xml, okay, you also need to do one more thing. Okay, this org.project Lombok will download a jar file for you. Okay, so where this jar file will be present, anyone knows where this jar file will be present? Do you guys know whatever the dependency that we are adding here will download
External
the
libraries.
okay, it's there in external libraries, but where in the machine? We're just referencing here.
Dot
No, the
project
so
folder.
there will be a libraries, I think.
But basically all the Maven dependencies, right? You go to users, your username, and then there will be folder called .m2. This is the folder where your all the jar files are getting stored. Okay. Now if you notice, there are so many jar files. I want to find where this is. The project structure is org.project Lombok. org. Project Lombok. Okay, project Lombok. Inside that I have multiple versions, but here I am interested in 1.8.20. That's what I have added. And then you have to double click it. Okay, once you double click it, okay, it will scan for IDs. That is, it will scan for the Eclipse that is present in your machine. Okay, it will do the scanning. Okay, and then it has found the Eclipse location in my case. Okay, and then you can just click on install and update. Okay, but if it is not finding the location in your case, then you need to click on specify location and specify the location where your Eclipse IDE is present. Okay, that's the one stuff that you need to do. After that, you need to restart your Eclipse. Once that is all done, maybe if you open your Eclipse, okay, you'll get an understanding whether it is installed or not. In my case, it is already installed. Okay, so let me also show that, because some of you are using Eclipse. I have migrated from Eclipse to IntelliJ. If you are still using Eclipse, think about migrating to IntelliJ. Okay, it's really good. It has a lot of good features than Eclipse. Okay, once you install and restart your Eclipse, you go to the about Eclipse section and scroll down. And here, if you notice, this particular, if you see this, it means the Lombok is already installed in your case. Okay, let's close all these things, and then okay, maybe I will open some practice project here. Okay, let's okay, let's go and create a new package. I'll also show here, okay, because some of you might be using it in com.pojo. Okay, and then inside that I want to create employee. Okay, now we have an employee class. For that, I want to create private int ID private string Private string first name, whatever. Okay. Now you can check in the pom.xml whether you have that dependency already. Otherwise, you need to add it. So I go here, I just search one by one. I don't know whether it is already added. Okay, if I type it, it will definitely tell me @getter. Import. So it's showing the option, which means it's already there. So let's just import it here. Okay. In Eclipse, there is a cool thing that if you go here and then open the outline, okay, in the outline it will show you. But for now, we have generated getter method for this. So if you open the outline, it will clearly tell you there is a get ID and get first name. Okay, you can see these methods are getting created automatically. Okay, if you add setter also, okay, and then import it from Lombok. And now you can also see the outline. The setter method is also the actually whatever we are doing the D Lombok, it's basically given here in the outline. It's giving you the skeleton that it has set ID and set first name. Okay. Yeah, if you are someone who haven't used Lombok so far, you can also use it. There are a lot of other features, but for now, just understand that it has getters, setters, and then it can generate all argument constructor for you. We'll learn about the builder design pattern and other stuff next class. But I'll give you enough time to practice about the Pojo because I never took this much time to create to teach a Pojo. But I don't mind spending extra time as long as you guys can understand. But I'll also copy paste this in our WhatsApp group so that you can try the same Pojo in your machine, and then let me know if you still have doubts. Okay, or you can pick some random complex Pojo from online and then try to create a Pojos for all those things. Okay, and then let me know if you are facing any issues. Okay. Any doubts before we close the session? All right, so the same thing you can optimize with. I can remove all this, getters and setters, everything. Okay, so much of code here. Let's remove all these things. And here I just go and put @getter, @setter, @all args constructor. Okay, that's it. Everything is now set. But you need to know where this is coming from. This is coming from Lombok, and it would have created the getter methods, setter methods, and all argument constructor for me. See, there is no error here. The code will work absolutely the same way like before. So you don't have to worry about any of these. Okay, it has constructed the request. Again, you can change the ID to randomly generate so that you don't get the response like duplicate ID. Okay, good guys. Any doubts?
Amutan, last class you told us to the difference between append and accumulate.
Yeah.
So,
okay, even I didn't refer it. I forgot. Maybe have you referred it? Append and accumulate. Okay, if you're not, then let me take a note of it. Sorry guys, I forgot about that append and accumulate. Accumulate in or.json. I'll do that. Okay, I make a note of it. I'll do that tomorrow. Okay. Any other stuff?
Like as you were mentioning to migrate to the
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Sorry.
Hello, can
Yeah.
you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, so you were telling about migrating to this ID.
Yeah.
So, like, if possible for you to create a small video, like I'm not asking you to just now or like sometime. So, like
Yeah.
I am used to with Eclipse, like so it will
Yeah,
be
see,
easier
even
for me.
I know all the shortcuts in and out of Eclipse. Okay, I was using Eclipse for almost 4 years. I won't even touch my mouse. Okay, I'll create everything by keyboard by just using keyboard. I know all the shortcuts. Even I have created a shortcuts video in YouTube, Eclipse shortcuts video in YouTube. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I saw that. Yeah.
yeah, so the advantage of using Eclipse is it comes with a lot of good things. Okay, only when you try to use it, you get to know very small things. Okay, the static imports, very small things. But the one good advantage what I see is you can use the Eclipse shortcuts in IntelliJ IDE as well. Okay, there is some key maps, something like in the settings. Okay, where you can use Eclipse shortcuts. If you notice, I'm using an Eclipse copy here, okay, which means whatever the password that I use in IntelliJ is Eclipse passwords, because I cannot still forget my Eclipse passwords and then come back to IntelliJ. So I'm still using this. Okay, so you can also take the advantage like this and then you can migrate. Okay, don't force yourself, but I see there are some advantage. Okay, but with the static imports, a lot of suggestions, it gives a lot of plenty of the Git plugin is very cool here. You can push and pull your code very easily. You can do a lot of comparisons, a lot of other advantages. Only when you try to use that, okay, it will be a little easy. Okay, just try it out. Okay, it's cool, right? IntelliJ is little cool. Okay, one of the big advantages when you are working with databases, you want to validate your queries. I basically use the licensed version of IntelliJ in my office, and then you can run your queries from the IntelliJ ID itself. You don't need an SQL workbench to go there and then run it. So suppose let's say I am storing, so let's say assume I am storing some string like this. Okay, string SQL equal to select star from employee. Okay, I have a query like this. Okay, now if I select this, and then there is some option to inject. Okay, just a minute, guys. Okay, this is not the stuff. I have the option to inject language. Control is that control. Inject language or reference. If you notice, this language is basically SQL. Okay, now it changes the color. Okay, suppose I am typing where ID equal to 15, something like this. Okay, then it basically understand. See, the color is telling the color difference is telling, okay, these are all keywords from SQL. This is table name, this is variable name. Suppose if I even make some mistake in an inner join and outer join, it will point it here itself. Okay, and then you also have an option to run this query from within the IntelliJ itself. Okay, that's you have in the license version, but this is more than enough, right? You're making some mistake. Okay, suppose instead of and I'm using an, and then name equal to something like this. Okay, then it will tell you clearly what is the error. So you are using double quotes here, that is an error. So okay, you need to use a single quotes. Okay, that's okay, that's one mistake. And if you notice, it's still throwing an error. Okay, if you don't inject this language, it doesn't know whether it is and or in. So if you change it to and, then it understand it's basically a SQL query, the keyword from SQL query, so it can understand and or. So this is how it can help you. Okay, so this is basically the way that you can use IntelliJ. Okay, this is just a sample use case, but there are even more than this. Okay, only when you start to use, you tend to understand about this. Okay, anything else?
No, then please ping that in WhatsApp so we can practice.
Yeah, I will ping the test.json. No worries. Anything else?
Then when do we use .json file? If you can just give a brief idea about that.
Dot?
Like we are using .json file for our body construction.
Yeah.
When do we use a .json file? I'm not having any idea about that.
Is there something called as .json file? JSON is a library. There is a library called as JSON. JSON is a library in Java library, like how we have used JSON library, Jackson library. The same way, there is a library called as JSON, which you can use. Basically, there are hundreds of library available, but for rest assured, I think JSON and Jackson can solve most of the problems. Okay. Again, whatever the code that I have written, if you see somebody else code, they would have used different ways. Okay. They would have used a different approach to solve the same problem. Okay, that's up to them. So let's say here, instead of just giving the whole thing here, some people would have used something like base URI. Okay, base URI, they would give this. Okay, now what will happen? So this is your base URI and this is your endpoint. Okay, so people can use like this as well. Okay, they can also use so path parameters, query parameters, the method. Okay, basically I am using the simplest way possible, because that's, I don't want to complicate things. All my intention is to construct a request that is more readable and understandable by anyone. Okay, my intention is not to split this into two pieces, and for someone who is really seeing this code, they may not be able to look at this. Okay, maybe not all the time you will hard code it here. Okay, you will reference it from a different class. Okay, this string variable. So this is not good, right? So in those cases, you can just give the whole stuff here, right? Sometimes the answer is very simple. Instead, we complicate them all the time. Okay, so yeah, that's all about it. JSON, there is nothing called as .json file. If you know and I don't know, I'm sorry, but I'll have a look at it anyways. But from my experience, I don't have seen anything like .json file.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, guys, that's all for today. We'll connect again tomorrow, and then we'll continue more on the Jackson annotations and other stuff. You guys, please practice the Lombok. Okay, I have given you only the smell of Lombok. It's up to you to go and explore more on that particular library, and then play around with it. Okay, using Lombok, you don't have to mention the correct. Suppose if it is an employee, you can just mention where. Okay, this can take care of everything. Okay, this is coming from, so you don't have to worry about what is the return type. Okay, that is the power. Here we are telling response, but here I can just mention where. That's it. It can understand this is a response type. Okay, so this is the power of Lombok. Okay, from the latest versions of Java, you don't have to do this. It's still the same, but Lombok was doing that ever since 1.8. Okay, so you can also leverage a lot of other cool features from Lombok. Okay, it's up to you to grow and explore. Okay, I don't want to confuse you guys because you all not used to do all these things. So for now, let's restrict ourselves from using the getter, setters, and all argument constructor. Okay. Okay, guys, that's all from my side. You guys have a very good day today, and we will connect tomorrow again. And then that's all. Thank you. Bye bye.